Thoughts, something that neurons inside our brains create to stimulate themselves. Our judgments, our needs, our guiding force. In my opinion, there are two kinds of thoughts. Normal thoughts, I need to eat, I should do my homework rather than making this video, and hey, that kid's a pretty fast runner. And then there are random thoughts, curious, inquisitive, such as people wake up 10,000 times and still don't get used to it. And nothing is on fire. Fire is on things. And if cats had wings, they'd still just lay there. These thoughts get their own section of thoughts because they are different from other thoughts. They are the root of why we humans are who we are, because we can look at the stupid side of life and see patterns that could lead to something useful. People a lot of the time find success by doing something dumb, by looking at something that not everybody would look at, and logically create a pattern that could lead to such a eureka moment. Anyways, this video took a lot of work, so if you hit that sub button, it would help out a ton. But how fast would I be able to see that you subbed? Well, with the right internet connection and such, it can take 1 to 3 seconds, depending on the subscriber and the channel owner's Wi-Fi. So it means that for 1 to 3 seconds, you are the only person on the face of the planet to know that a subscriber count has increased. You might also be the only one in an empty room when you subscribe, but technically it's impossible for there to be an empty room, since you will be in it. It's also impossible to have nothing, or so we say, because then what was before the Big Bang, or if there is a god or goddess, then what was before them? What if this universe isn't really real, and instead we're all test subjects and experiment by the real universe people? What if you, yes you, are the real subject of this universe, the only real person, while everybody else is a simulation? What if you are lonely, the only of your kind? What if the real government is doing an experiment and has created what you think is reality just as a study? But loneliness is something that is hardwired against the human brain, something that thousands and thousands of years have rooted in our minds, that loneliness is something we can't go without for long periods of time. But it would be easier for most people nowadays to go without people than without their phones, as evolution has been overturned in just a couple of decades, making isolation something desired and a treat, rather than the cacophony of people that our phones force us to acknowledge. But acknowledging that achieving your goals is statistically improbable and that we will all be failures is actually quite not true, as there are many ways that you can make it so that you succeed in life, but that only will put your chances of success up. This means that we all, even though it was one of our least favorite classes in school, are all dependent on statistics. So taking a class on statistics could be the most important class that you take in your life. Speaking of statistics, everyone will eventually become part of a statistic for someone's talking point. Thinking is not seeing. It might feel like you're seeing, but you're actually connecting neurons inside your brain that connect to each other to emulate a picture. It's like your mind has eyes. I didn't know that until this video, but some people, actually 65% of people, think in pictures, rather the other 35% think in words. I personally am in that 35%. Some people do not think in either, and just do not think anything in times of dormant activity. These people, when they are in an elevator, they do not think about anything. They would instead just have a blank mind, a blank slate. Speaking of thinking, there are many lines of thinking for the chicken versus egg question, but what about the question of what came first, the human mother or the human child? How do we draw the line between a predecessor of the human and the human? Speaking of humans, humans are the name that doges call us, but do they have any language of their own? Do their barks mean anything concrete? Are there any concrete words that, if you heard a dog bark, could be that dog trying to say something specific. Statistics and measurements are quite specific. And what are the statistics of your life? How many miles have you walked? How much milk have you drank? How many times have you gone into work or school? What is the closest you've been to dying? Speaking of dying, there must be at least a couple of times that you've walked by someone that was walking toward their imminent demise. People off to where they will never return, and you had no way to know, no way to warn them, and will never see them again. Speed round. Thermometers are speedometers for atoms. We don't really know if the day is actually the day that it is, because someone must have messed up along the way. And that's it. I didn't call it a speed round for nothing. But we do call things things, so who was the one who first thought of naming stuff? Who was the person who first thought about having a home, swimming, cleaning themselves, dated a certain time? Who were the first people to do these things? Traditions, aren't they just dead people exerting their control on us? Speaking of control over people, sub now. How long would someone's hair be if they never cut it? Depends on the person, of course, but since hair grows at 6 inches a year, and in 6 years hairs have to be shed, so in 6 years you could get all the way up to 3 feet. Speaking of feet, it turns out that there is actually a measurement of length in Britain called the royal foot, which is the actual length of the reigning monarch's foot measured every year. Measuring children's grades is something that every school does, of course, but would it be possible to go to school and not be measured, not be entered into the system? Would you be able to act like you weren't there? Would you have to avoid attendance or only attend classes that didn't take attendance? In school, you learn about math and extremely fun subject. Fun. And I know this is very, very unlikely, but could you make someone admit the truth just because of math? Well, let's see. We have reason to believe that you were involved robbing of a bank. Now, we have a new sort of, reasoning. Don't get mad at us, government. But reasoning known throughout the land to be able to reason any of the even stubbornest. And you have been quite stubborn. Do you want to admit it? If the equation is x plus 7...
what? Yeah, I did it. Just no.
The alien is to us what we are to apes. Small, pale, big-headed, and with amazing technology. Random thoughts can be the way into the inner workings of a human. And in conclusion, I can say that I have some pretty unusual thoughts. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Sub, and see you later.